Wonderful. Right. So stroke is a global leading cause of death and disability today. And despite having a highly effective treatment known as a thrombectomy, even in developed countries today, half of stroke patients cannot directly access it. This is a critical problem because a thrombectomy has a really short time window of 6 hours within which it's effective. At Nanoflex Robotics, we want to change this with telerobotics. We are using a robotic system that will use magnets to guide a wire like this through the blood vessels, and using it, we can perform time-critical interventions faster and more accessibly. So a patient who is thousands of miles away from a doctor will be able to be treated. So let me show you how this works. What you don't see is that in this wire, at the very tip, there are tiny magnets embedded inside of it. So combined with this magnetic field generator, the tip of the wire can be deflected in any direction within milliseconds. It's clipped into an advancer, which then pushes the wire and other catheters into the blood vessels. And so with complete control over the tip shape and complete control over advancement, it creates the perfect system for teleoperation. To date, we've done a simulated teleoperated thrombectomy. Here's a model of human blood vessels with the green simulated blood clot in the brain of the patient. And a neurointerventionalist from Mayo Clinic, Dr. Bendock, remotely navigated our guide wire from Arizona to Zurich through this model all the way up to the blood clot. Once there, he tracked a catheter over, and it aspirated the clot out. And that's exactly what we want to do in stroke patients today. So here's our system as it stands today. We have our magnetic field generator that can be rolled into any interventional suite with standard X-ray imaging systems. We have our advancer that's clipped into the side of the bed, and our magnetic guide wire and catheters get loaded into the advancer. Then, of course, we have the doctor sitting here at the cockpit, remotely controlling using a handheld video game-like controller. And he gets situational awareness of the room from a telepresence system. And all of that data is sent across a robust connectivity network with multiple redundant internet layers. So today, more than 100 different clinicians across US, Europe, and Asia have tested our system, and we've gotten highly positive feedback. And that's translated into early commercial traction with multiple of these sites now securing funding with us to roll out telerobotics thrombectomy programs. And our customers see the value in this system because they see value across the healthcare ecosystem. So for example, in Hawaii, where there's only a single hospital today in the entire state that can perform a thrombectomy, we would be able to cut out 3 hours of average transport time for patients. We can save $40,000 in emergency transport fees, and the hospital alone would be able to get $30 million in annual revenue, additional annual revenue for the thrombectomies that are not currently being done today. So why now? 20 years ago, the first telerobotic surgery was done, and it was performed between France and the US, and it was done using deep-sea underwater fiber optic cables. Today, however, in a market like the US, you have 95% of those hospitals that have fiber optics, and 4G and 5G is scaling up. So the cost of connectivity is becoming far more accessible. The second thing is that we have established telestroke networks. And so what happens is that a patient who gets diagnosed at a spoke will be efficiently triaged into the hubs where they have a thrombectomy. So this creates a really natural market entry point for us to roll out a telerobotics thrombectomy program. Importantly as well, at many of these spokes, they have interventional cardiologists who are able to facilitate an intervention at the bedside, even if they can't do a thrombectomy, and will be able to handle any complications that arise. So that's our final vision. We want to be able to do teleoperation in 3 different indications. We want to do it in the brain and the heart. In the brain, we would do it for thrombectomy and a non-emergency procedure to train up our neurointerventionalists. In the heart, we'll be looking at high-volume diagnostic procedures, and this will drive utilization of our robots as well as engage the interventional cardiologists who are also a key part of it. To get there, we're taking a stepwise approach. We're starting from a bedside system. It's a simplified system that still allows clinicians to enjoy the benefits of magnetic navigation while manually advancing the wire and catheters into the patient. So with this bedside system, we plan to be on the market by 2028, which will be around the same time that we will be starting our clinical trials for the teleoperation system. So here's where the magic happens. Our company was founded by 3 founders, Matt, Christoph, and Brad, with very deep scientific expertise as well as commercial expertise, even selling the first surgical robots in Europe. I come in as COO, driving the company in its operations and execution. And today we have 27 employees. 60% of them are engineers, 90% of them have advanced degrees. And I would say the final 10% hold most of our common sense. So we know we can't do this by ourselves. We've recruited a whole network of leading clinicians, robotic industry veterans to help us along this exciting and ambitious journey. And as we continue to grow and continue to recruit OEM suppliers and telecoms giants and regulators, to help us get this system to reality and to the market, we believe we have the network to build a network to deliver life-saving interventions across distance. In other words, we want to build a world where no matter where anybody is, they will be able to receive life-saving care. Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you very much. Really interesting. I've got loads of questions, but many of them stem from not being an expert in this space. So I'm going to start there, because hopefully that's useful. Obviously, when you're putting wires into people's brains, that's pretty risky, right? Can you just talk to me about how you go from theory to practice, and maybe about those regulatory hurdles that are involved?
Absolutely. So maybe taking one step back, what I wasn't able to mention is that this procedure is manually done today with these wires. So we're very aware of the risk. We're very cognizant of the complications that come into this. We are, in fact, actually making, my wire fell on the floor. We're, in fact, making this procedure even safer because the wire that we're creating is much floppier and more flexible than standard wires that have to hold a very rigid tip shape. And so because of that, we, number one, think it's already going to be safer intrinsically because of the technology. Now, regulatory-wise, we see the hurdles in that a teleoperated system has never, ever been brought to market. And so we've engaged with regulators really early. We've had about 4 different discussions with the FDA. We are in closed-door meetings with them where they have expressed their excitement in working with us to bring this to market. And it's the same. We have approached European notified bodies as well, and they're also really excited. I mean, their job is to bring novel devices to market, and we believe we have a really strong proposition, value proposition for the patient, really strong benefit for the patient, where we'll be able to push this through.
Thank you so much. What's been the feedback from clinicians?
Oh, they love it. They see the potential. Many of them, especially the top key opinion leaders, they're excited about just the benefit of magnetic navigation by itself, like not even talking about teleoperation. That's because they often work in very tortuous blood vessels where they need to use multiple wires with multiple different tip shapes to even get to where they want. So the possibility of using a single device without having to change it all to get through all of that tortuosity is very appealing to them. Now, the reason why we chose not just to market it for magnetic navigation by itself, but also teleoperation, is because we see that's where the patient benefit is. And clinicians are excited about that, especially the ones that work in hub hospitals where they have a huge catchment area and they know that these patients are coming to them late. And the minute they come through the door and they know that they've been 3 hours out in an ambulance waiting to arrive at the hospital, they know it's not going to be a good prognosis. So they're excited to do better for the patients.
Thank you. It's an excellent pitch. Quick question on the commercial strategy. So presumably Nanoflex is a suite, it goes into the surgical suite. So does that mean you're selling hospital by hospital, country by country, system by system? How do you think about that from a scalability point of view?
Thank you. We're taking a razor and blades business model kind of approach. We have our capital system, and then we have the disposables. And the profits are going to be driven by the disposables. That's the magnetic guide wire. So our aim is to place as many systems as possible in hospitals today. And as I mentioned, there's this really nice stroke network that exists already today, connections between hubs and spokes, and a lot of these fall within a single health system. So there's ownership over the hubs and the spokes. So what we are planning to do is to sell into the health system and to help them to think about where would they most strategically place these robots in order to widen the catchment area for the stroke patients as much as possible. Because at the end of the day, their volumes are going to be driven by the number of stroke patients they can additionally capture. And that's a win-win for us because then we also sell more and more of our disposables.